Mark is a genius and sensible youngster. He studies regularly. Like every morning, Mark was going to the library to study. At that time, he saw Ross listening to music on the other side of the road. Mark was surprised to see Ross after such a long time. Ross also saw Mark, and he came to meet Mark. Mark asked him, "Where have you been? Why don't you come for studies?" Ross replied, "I don't need to read books for 10 to 12 hours. I met a very wise man who advised me to place a book near my pillow at night. By doing so, I absorb knowledge while I sleep. But I have to follow this method only before exams. So, the only thing I need to do before exams is to follow this method. Now I don't need to study for hours." Mark was really surprised and said, "I can't believe you buy into such dumb ideas. Forget that guy's method. Come back and study with me." Ross suggested to Mark, "Hey, why don't you take a break from studying and try this method?" They ended up arguing for hours, trying to convince each other, but both stuck to their own beliefs. Finally, they decided to seek Professor Ruffalo's thoughts on who is right. They also decided that whoever the professor didn't support would be responsible for cleaning up the entire library. Off they went to meet Professor Ruffalo, an intelligent and well-educated professor. The library was massive, with towering bookcases. When they reached the professor's office filled with books, the professor unexpectedly asked from behind, "Boys, what brings you here?" The boys told everything to the professor and asked him to decide who was correct and who had to clean up the library. The professor listened and made up his mind. Mark was surprised once again. Mark never imagined that the Professor Ruffalo would think he was wrong, especially since Mark knew the Professor Ruffalo was very intelligent. The professor doesn't entertain silly ideas. Mark asked the professor why he reached this decision. The professor responded, "You encounter a bunch of clueless people every day. If you consider yourself mature and sensible, but still waste time arguing with them for hours, then you're just as clueless and stupid as they are because you're wasting your time arguing with them." Professor Sir scolded Mark and said, "I didn't expect this from you, Mark. I thought you were the most sensible student." Ross also grasped this concept and realized how he had wasted his time. The only thing costly than time, that's who you spend it on.
Please like, share and subscribe.